The Yankees?
Yeah,
It's hard. It's hard
unfortunately,
to see.
as I tell people in Boston, this was my gift from Bucky Dent.
Okay. So you were in that game where Bucky Dent hit the ball in the left field wall. Was that you?
No, I was in the bullpen.
You were in the bullpen.
All hands were on deck. I was ready to pitch in case we needed it, but we had enough going on. We had Guidry, who had a terrific year that year. He pitched the playoff game, and so once we won that game, as I said, I ended up pitching the first game of the playoffs against the Royals.
Okay, and then you moved on to Seattle. What was that like in Seattle?
Well, it was a much different team. I mean, it was in a lot of ways, I was fortunate to be moved traded to Seattle after the 1980 season. I knew that Billy Martin came up to me at the end of the season in 1980 and said, you know, you and Guidry, you're going to be the #2 starter behind Guidry this year. And I said, when Billy said that to me, I said, I'm either going to be the #2 or 3 starter, or I'm going to be traded.
Yeah,
So as it ended up, I was traded after the 80 season. I went
yeah,
to Seattle. It was a pretty young team.
yeah. Do you know who they traded you for? Or what?
I was part of a trade for Rupert Jones.
Yeah.
Jerry Narron, who has been a major league manager, was also in that trade. Juan Beniquez came over from the Yankees with me, and there were a couple other minor league pitchers as well. So, but as I said, it was a young team. They weren't very good. We were playing in the Kingdome, but I got an opportunity to pitch, which was important. I mean, regardless of how well I did every fifth day, I knew I was going to be out there for the next fifth day, and that wasn't necessarily the case when I was playing in New York.
Yeah. Any highlights at Seattle that you want to tell us about?
Oh, I guess let's see. I'm trying to think of it. I guess one
Well,
of the
with the
things.
Yankees, you had the World Series. So with Seattle, did they do anything all those years that you were there?
No, we never made the playoffs.
No.
No,
Highlight moments.
I got a chance to play with Gaylord Perry,
Okay.
which was interesting. Gaylord's in the Hall of Fame, and I actually, because of that, I got to hang around with Leroy Neiman when he was doing his portrait of Gaylord, and I was an art major in college, so we went up to Leroy Neiman's apartment in New York City while he did some studies of Gaylord, and so I got to talk to Leroy Neiman a fair amount. But when I was in Seattle, as I said, it was mostly a young club. We never made the playoffs. And we had some good young players, but just not enough of them.
Okay, then at 86, you had your final game at around 31 years old. Was there? Did you ever come back? I noticed there's something later on in life here. Was that your final game at 86, or?
Yes. Yeah, I had had surgery after the 84 season, and in 85 and 86, I had another surgery after each of those years. My shoulder was hurt. It was all torn up, and so I just decided I couldn't pitch anymore. I retired after the 86 season and went to school at the University of Washington, got an MBA, and then after that came out and was hired as the minor league director with the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, you were minor league director. Is that what that happened in '92? Is that?
No, in 80, I was the minor league director from 89 to 95.
Okay. Was that with Seattle?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then eventually moved on to the Expos.
Then I was hired as the general manager of the Expos after the 95 season, was there through the 2001 season. And then
who were some of the people you signed for the Expos that you can recall?
Well, when I got there, I mean, I was there when, players that came up. I mean, we had the Major League Club was pretty well set. The guys that we signed during that time, we had Grady Sizemore, Brandon Phillips, Cliff Lee. Those were all ex-Montreal Expos that were signed when I was there. But we had the Major League Club was pretty well set. In fact, I just talked to someone who's writing a biography of Pedro Martinez. I was the guy that traded Pedro to the Red Sox after the '97 season.
Yeah.
So we were, again, another small market club that was kind of surviving on player development, developing players and keeping them, but then we couldn't keep them because there wasn't a stadium to support the revenue. We needed to keep our good major league players.
Yeah. Was there a reason why Pedro was traded? I mean, he's such a fantastic pitcher for the Red Sox. Was it
He
a
was
money?
going to.
Was it
He would
money?
have been. He was in the last year of a contract, and he would have become a free agent. And we couldn't re-sign him. We didn't have the money to re-sign him. He had told us that I asked him about signing an extension, and he said, "Well, I'll sign an extension, but you also have to sign some other players with me. I don't want to be the one, major league player and have a lot of young players around me." And I just, we couldn't afford to do that. So we'd made the decision that we'd have to trade him and try to get the best major league ready young pitching available at that time.
Speaking of some of our favorite Red Sox players, you mentioned earlier about David Ortiz in the earlier part of his career. And I think of our viewers and the amount of love we have for David Ortiz. Can you give us some insight on what it was like to work with him when he was a much younger player?
He was very raw. I talked earlier about a young player who's very raw. That was David. I mean, he came over. He could swing the bat a little bit, but one of the things we really were waiting for was for him to mature, get stronger. He actually had a pretty good glove around first base, moved pretty well, was pretty athletic, and was just loved playing. He always had that energy. He always had that smile on his face, and just loved playing the game. And so he was able to take that, and it was still a while. I mean, obviously the Seattle Mariners traded him to the Twins when he was still at the minor league level, and so it was still going to take a while. And the Twins non-tendered him, so it was something that it was a matter of timing, and he hit it when he got to Boston, and things clicked for him, and he's hasn't looked back.
Thank the Lord for
Yeah.
us this year.
I had a couple other players that came over there after I left. I had guys in the minor leagues. I had Derek Lowe and Jason Varitek in the minor leagues too that were also pretty good players for the Red Sox at points of their career.
Can you give us some highlights about working with them and knowing them?
Well, Derek, I think, is pretty much the same guy. Very loose, a bit of a free spirit, terrific athlete, tremendous golfer, and so is a very good, just a good all-around athlete. But another guy that he threw a terrific sinker. And was trying to develop other pitches to go with that, and was very skinny right out of Michigan, very tall and skinny, so he needed to mature. Varitek was a pretty mature guy right from the beginning. We signed him right before spring training. He reported to Wilmington, North Carolina in AA after he signed, and I was in the bullpen with him talking about just going through what to be expected when he's with reports. And he was very good around. He was not a prima donna, number 1 pick. He went down, he caught bullpens, he put the work in. He was always a hard worker. But he was still a ways away, given all the experience he had in college. He was still a ways away from being a finished product at the big league level when he was traded.
So eventually you moved on from Montreal. What'd you do after that? You became a scout for the Toronto Blue Jays? Is that what you currently do now? Or?
No, I actually resigned from the Montreal Expos. I was the general manager after 6 years. I decided that I really didn't get into baseball to do what the Montreal Expos. They had a new owner, Jeffrey Loria, and what was going on with the club at that point was not something that I was enjoying as much as early on in my career as a GM with the Expos. So I decided I resigned. And at that point, Major League Baseball ended up buying the team. So the whole Montreal group went down to Florida, and Major League Baseball put a management team into Montreal. And Omar Minaya, who was a friend of mine from his days with the Mets, called me up and asked me if I'd be interested in helping him, because they didn't even have scouting reports on their own players. The Expos people had taken everything with them. So I kind of was hired for a year as a special advisor to Omar and did some scouting close to home. I was living in Hanover at that time, in Hanover, New Hampshire. And at the end of that, at the end of that year, which I believe was 2002, I was hired as a general manager, actually co-general manager of the Baltimore Orioles, where I worked with Mike Flanagan.
Jim, you've been great so far. We're coming down to the last 2 minutes. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that half hour goes real quick.
Right.
You've met me before at the dinner with the Fisher Cats, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, some people, they don't think I know anybody. So anyway, I just wanted to read part of the list of the people that are going to be at the dinner. Bernie Carbo, Denny McLean, Darrell Evans, Ron Bloomberg, Jim Beatie, Scott McGregor, also Ron LaFleur. So you're going to be up there also, right? So people can meet you in person, right?
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I go every year.
Yeah, it's November 23rd, 2013, for the people that want to go. It's a fantastic time. And my co-host has been Donna Cohen. She's a lawyer, and she goes to all the Fenway games. So if you want to meet her, I can give you the information. It's Donna Cohen Strategies at Comcast.net. Donna Cohen Strategies at Comcast.net. And we thank you for another half hour of Henry's Baseball Club. Please tune in for future shows. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.